Hello and welcome to You Gotta Be Kidding Me, episode 2. This episode looks at the Bowman's capsule and the glomerulus. Okay, right. So these guys, they filter stuff, as we said, and just to orientate you, we're here at the top of the nephron in the cortex. Okay, so this video explains how the filtration barrier works and any diseases that might come across, like with it. Okay, glomerular capillary. Imagine you have your glomerular capillary here. And on this side, you have your endothelial cells. Endothelial just means that they are the cells that make up the capillaries. However, in the kidney, that's kind of special. They have these little gaps between them, and they're not huge gaps, so that kind of the gaps themselves acts as, you're not going to get really large stuff coming in. But these gaps are endothelial gaps, and they're called fenestrae or pores. And our second layer, these are covered. These are kind of plugged by like a kind of mucusy kind of thing, but it's not mucus. Imagine it as mucus. By something called Glycocalyix, which is a little membrane, and this physically plugs the holes of the fenestrae to block larger red blood cells and albumin. Albumin is kind of the main protein that's free in blood. Okay, underneath our endothelial cells, we have something called the basement membrane, and that consists of negatively charged proteoglycans. It's also made of type 4 collagen, and because it's negatively charged, it's going to attract positively charged stuff, so positive ions, for example. But it says here larger solutes, because negative solutes that are tiny, for example chloride ions will be able to pass through this like very easily anyway, so they're not really repelled. Only kind of larger negative solutes are repelled, but so it kind of depends on size as well. Also plasma proteins are also repelled. At the end of our basement membrane, we have these kind of things called podocytes, and these are kind of like the feet of podocytes. And these are connected by something called the slit diaphragm, which essentially acts as your fourth kind of layer of filtration. Okay, that was kind of quick, but now let's go on to some pathologies. Oh, before we do that, the average GFR, so one interesting thing, well, it's not interesting, but one thing to note is that the average GFR going through the kidney, what does that mean? Basically, your filtration rate, how much plasma is passing through the Bowman's capsule per minute. This is a figure you need to know is 125 mil, because it's very SBAable to kind of give you a lower or a higher GFR and to kind of figure out the kidney function based on that. And essentially that's about 20% of plasma volume is filtering into the tubules. Stuff that filters, as I kind of hinted at, it depends on the molecular weight as well as the electrical charge. So for example, small stuff, whether it's negative or positive, it's going to get through the basement membrane anyway. Okay, pathologies. So we said the basement membrane is made of type 4 collagen. There's a syndrome called ALPORT syndrome, which is a rare disorder of type 4 collagen. And what that means is that your basement membrane is not very nice. And essentially, this kind of breaks. This is all you need to know. And it leads to blood and protein in urine. Okay. Diabetes mellitus. This is going to come up a lot in the kidney stuff. So it's good to be aware of the diabetes stuff. And also, you'll know why in a bit why we keep calling it diabetes mellitus. There's another type of diabetes. Diabetes essentially just means like urinating a lot. That's what it meant back in the day. Anyway, glucose and the basement membrane, so here's a bit of a math equation for you, is a bad thing. Well, what does that mean? It means in diabetes mellitus you have a lot of glucose in your blood. Therefore, a lot of glucose is going to be filtered as well. And the glucose has stuff called glycation reactions, and when it glycates stuff, it basically destroys the function. So glucose plus, when there's excess glucose, it kind of messes up your basement membrane, and this is called diabetic nephropathy. So like damage to your nephron, and you also get protein in your wee. And finally, your slit diaphragms here between your podocytes are made of something called nephrin, And nephrin mutations as well can lead to proteinuria. And that's it.